coming to you live from 107.1 WRFN, Radio Free Nashville. Appreciate everyone listening out there in the Nashville area, also all around the country. Got a big show lined up for you guys. We got John Glennon. Going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. He's going to be first on the docket. And with that, we appreciate John as always coming in to talk Titans with us. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Oh, appreciate you. Like I said, always coming on down to talk some Titans here. And what a tough way to lose, that last game against the Seahawks. Looked like they really had a chance. Looked like, going into all the obstacles they faced going into this thing, that they was going to put up a formidable game. And, it was a 7-point game going into third or fourth quarter. What's your thoughts on that game, your takeaways on it, John?
Yeah, I agree with you. I did think that they still had a shot at that, late in the game, but it was almost, kind of deceptive in a lot of ways. I think Seattle probably deserved a larger lead at that point. I think they'd really outplayed the Titans to that point, and it was really only that blocked field goal that resulted in a touchdown for the Titans that was keeping them close. So. I think it was a pretty just, I guess, if you will, victory for the Seahawks. It's odd that we're saying this about the Titans after how bad they were defensively last year, but I think the Titans defense did a pretty good job of holding them in that game for the most part. But eventually at some point the offense just has to help out, and that never really happened against Seattle.
Now, let me say this. This is the elephant in the room with that team right now. What's going on with Chris Johnson and that offensive line? I mean, everyone is out to make it seem like, it's Chris Johnson's fault, but I hear a lot of rumbles about maybe some of it's the offensive line as well. What's your thoughts on that, and what, if anything, could be done about that unit that was supposed to be their strong point going into the season?
Yeah, it really was, and it's especially the last 3 weeks, it's been such a struggle in the run game. As usual, I think there's blame to go around. I think that interior of the offensive line, which was supposed to be so much better, hasn't come together. And you guys may have seen this. And my coworker Jim Wyatt reported a little bit earlier that they're making a change in the line this week. They're going to start Brian Schwenke, the rookie, at center instead of Rob Turner. So they really liked what Schwenke was doing through a lot of training camp before he got hurt. So we'll see how that change affects the interior of the offensive line. But I think part of the blame has to go with Johnson too. He's not making a lot of guys miss now. I think if he gets an opening, he's still good to go. He's still got the great speed, but I'm not sure that we're seeing a lot of deception there, and I think there has to be more of that from Chris Johnson, especially given the fact that he, with the money that he's making and the fact that he's kind of got the playmaker status on this team, there has to be more than just, if there's a big hole, I'll go. I think he's got to do a little bit himself, but at the same time, that the line is not getting it done for him either. So I think there's equal blame, both parts there.
And John, I also feel that Chris is trying to hit the home run ball. He's trying to make these make these big plays, not taking the easy 2 or 3, 4 yard plays. Because, watching it from afar, watching him on the press box, I see where he's missing holes. I can see he's missing holes. He's missing. So as Mike Munchak and Bruce Matthews addressing that with Chris, that he's missing holes that's they're trying to make bigger plays.
Yeah, I thought in the first couple of weeks of the season, I thought he was doing a better job of just kind of taking what was there, taking 3, 4. 5-yard runs if they were there, and okay, if the big run comes along, I'll take it. But my kind of feeling is that as the season's gone on, he's asked so frequently, when's the big run going to happen? When's the big run going to happen? I think he does start to look for the bigger hit from time to time, and when he does that, he's a little less patient when it comes to hitting the holes and taking the right path and so forth, and he probably hurts himself in that regard. So, I think he's just got to remain patient, I think, is really the key, and take those 3 or 4 or 5 yards if you can, and as it's always been said, the home runs eventually come, but you can't. That can't be your aim on each and every down, or you end up doing too much dancing before you hit the line of scrimmage.
We are talking right now with Tennessean's finest here, Mr. John Glennon. You can catch his work on Twitter, also at Glennon Sports. Now, we got to talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick here, John. He's had 2 games as a starter. Hasn't been thoroughly impressive, specifically his accuracy and his decision making. What's your thoughts on this player, and what areas does he need to improve on? And I hear the locker is about to start football activities. How soon can Titans fans expect for him to be out much longer here?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a little bit surprising today to see Jake Locker come back on the practice field. Now he was not a full participant in practice. He was limited. He did the 7-on-7 drills, and he took a few snaps in team drills, and that's about it. And he still got a brace on his right knee. So, I think Mike Munchak still hasn't ruled him out for this week, but I still think it's unlikely that Jake Locker would be back this week. I think they'll probably let him sit out this week, let him sit out the bye week, and then he's probably ready to go for St. Louis and Jeff Fisher the week after that. But I think they certainly expected more from Ryan Fitzpatrick than what they're getting. I mean, they gave Ryan Fitzpatrick a pretty good deal for a backup quarterback. 2 years at over $6 million.
Yeah.
I think they expected better than 1 touchdown and 4 picks in the first 2 games. Maybe this third game now that Fitzpatrick is in, maybe this is a chance. By now he's kind of getting more of the timing down with those receivers, and he feels more comfortable. But just some of his decision making has been poor, I think, and that's not what you would expect from a guy with a Harvard degree. But for instance, that interception to Nate Washington, there was just never any question. I didn't think that Nate was never really open. I didn't think on that one that Richard Sherman picked off a pass, and Ryan threw it anyway, and boom, one play after the Titans had taken over the ball, they gave it right back up again.
Yes, indeed. Like you said, John, for a very, very smart guy, he makes very poor decisions. And maybe this is who he is. In Buffalo, they got rid of him for a reason. They thought he was the guy in Buffalo, but he always good. I've told Carlos was on the air multiple times. I felt like he's always going to make the big mistake when he least need it. He has a little bit of Romo with him. He's a poor man's Romo, in my opinion. He'll make you big plays, but also he'll make you the big play that helps other teams, a double agent to a degree. So do you think would Rusty Smith be a better option right now? At least he's a piece of better arm, in my opinion. Those are prettier ball. And I think Dialogue kind of control him and what he does to make him go with certain reads. Others, Ryan Fitzpatrick think, I'm a veteran of the league. I've been in the league for years. I see this ball. I'm going to fit this ball in here. Let me go with this though.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the last part of what you said. About Rusty and Ryan one more time?
Well, I said, like, maybe Rusty Smith, he can kind of go with I can make Rusty make these certain reads. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, on the other hand, would be like, I'm a veteran of the NFL, been in the league multiple years. I'll make this throw anyway. Though Dow wants to go here. You think Rusty would maybe be more of a system guy than Fitzpatrick will be? But he might be the better option to play against San Fran this Sunday?
I know what you're saying there. That is an interesting theory, and I do think Rusty has a stronger arm. I certainly agree with you there, and he's less likely to take chances. That has been a trademark of Ryan Fitzpatrick all along, is that he has that the so-called gunslinger reputation, and sometimes when you take those chances, it's a good thing. But for this Titans team that was so reliant on not turning the ball over through the first 4 weeks of the season, that was such a big part of their success. I think when Ryan's been taking some of those chances and not coming out on the good side, that's really hurts his team. So I still think Ryan would really have to struggle quite a bit for them to put Rusty in, just because of as you mentioned, Ryan's experience, and the fact this is the reason they brought him here to be the guy in this type of situation. But it is tempting. It is tempting to think that way, but I still think Ryan's going to be their guy this week unless he just completely goes down the drain.
Talking to John Glennon, like I said, catch his work at the Tennessean and also Glennon Sports. He does a great job covering the Titans and occasionally the Nashville Predators for you hockey fans out there in Nashville as well. Now, let me ask you this here, John. I've been on record saying the Titans have to win at least one of these games, that they're going to be without the services of Jake Locker. You lost 2 of the games. You was right there in the end of them, with the Chiefs and also the Seahawks. So at this point, this matchup with San Francisco, I don't want to call it a must-win, but going into a bye week, you want to get those good vibes going in. You don't want to have that long week to think about the 3-game losing streak. How important is this game going to be going forward into the second half of the season for the Titans?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very big one. As you mentioned there, the last thing in the world you want to do is have to sit around for 2 weeks and think about 3 straight losses and, have to answer those kind of questions for a long period of time. On the other hand, if you can get a win over certainly a quality San Francisco team that's won its last 3 games, and it's playing very well, I think that's a huge step in the right direction, and you can really feel good about yourself. And then during the bye week, you're probably gonna get Jake Locker back, against St. Louis. You're probably going to get a full speed Sean Green. Poku is probably going to be back against St. Louis. So if you go in with a win and you have the kind of the added benefit of getting these guys back from injury after the bye, I think you really have to feel good about yourself. But on the other hand, if you go in there with 3 straight losses, you're under 500 and you haven't really taken advantage of what's been a poor showing by this division overall, you're going to have a lot of questions to answer.
Yes, indeed. And John, I told Carlos this on record as well. I thought the Titans would lose all 3 of these games with Jake Locker, whether he played or not. I thought he was going to lose all 3 of these games. And the schedule sets up for the Titans pretty well. St. Louis, the Jeff Fisher Bowl, if you want to call it that. Then the hapless Jaguars get you back to 5-4, leading into those games with Indy. So I think the Titans was on a good spot anyway. This was always going to be a rough patch for them no matter what they did with Jake or Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I think the Titans should be able to take solace in the fact that they have those prototypical easy games per se coming up. Not that you want to call them easy, but they are easy on paper to get back on track. So are the guys thinking about, even we take this L this week, we can still recover against St. Louis and Jacksonville?
Yeah, certainly still a possibility. There's no doubt about that. In fact, I think that, really probably before the season, I was thinking that St. Louis would be a much more difficult game, I think, because I thought St. Louis really showed flashes of potential last year. They had a great record in the division. Against San Francisco and Seattle, they really look like kind of an up-and-coming team. And they've really, for the most part this year, they've been a disappointment. And I think right now, I think the Titans are much more likely to win that game than I would have thought before the season. So there's certainly still a good shot for the Titans to pick up some momentum after the bye. And as you look at the big conference picture, one of those wild card teams at this point certainly looks like it's either going to be Denver or Kansas City because both teams are undefeated. But the other wild card spot still looks like it's very much up in the air early on, and of course even the division title itself. They're 1 game behind Indy, and they haven't played Indy yet, and Houston is definitely struggling. So, getting to the playoffs by winning the division, it doesn't look like a huge stretch either if the Titans could put a few wins together.
Talk with John Glennon here. We got a quick 2-part question I got we'll get you out of here. Now, I see that the Titans did cut Michael Preston, wide receiver, signed Zach Dowse, I guess, in response to the Moses Foku injury. And does that really just close the door on any Kenny Britt trade rumors that you're in at this point? Because, it sounds like they're going to need all hands on deck at this point at the wide receiver position. And the second part, what's your thoughts on the breakdown, X factors, and anything that's going to happen in this game coming up Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers?
Okay, for some reason it's a little scratchy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I saw that Kenny Britt, I was going to ask, I saw that Michael Preston got released by the Titans and they picked up a linebacker in Zach Dowse. Does that close the door on any Kenny Britt trade rumors? And the last part, what's your thoughts on the San Francisco Tennessee Titans matchup this weekend?
I would agree with you on the Britt front. I think that the wide receiver was certainly a depth area, but having to cut Preston in order to pick up an extra linebacker, makes that pretty unlikely at this point. And I still think that they're going to give Britt another shot. I know he only played 2 snaps in the last game, but I think at some point he's going to work his way back into the rotation, and he's just too talented to say, forget about it, we're done with him. I think he's going to get more chances to contribute as the season goes on. So I still don't see him getting traded. And as far as this week's game, seems to be pretty significant challenge to say the least. This is a San Francisco team that's kind of, I feel like it's kind of regained its identity. Early in the season, they were throwing the ball more than we're used to seeing the 49ers throw it. And, I think in the last 3 weeks or so, they've gotten to the fact that hard power running game. Frank Gore is averaging over 100 yards a game over the last 3 weeks, and defense has been forcing a lot of turnovers. I think it's going to be tough. I think if Jake Locker was healthy and he was in there, I might give an edge to the Titans playing at home. But, unfortunately, the way we've seen the Titans with Ryan Fitzpatrick the last couple of weeks, right now I'm kind of leaning towards picking a 49ers win on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. The 49ers definitely look like they got their mojo back here. Frank Gore. They tried to do that whole passing thing with Colin Kaepernick after he just went off against Green Bay, and it seems like that didn't quite work out for him. So I expect for them to run the ball and be tough on the Titans. But hopefully they can pull it out, John, but you never know.
You never know. Yeah, it's certainly a possibility, and if the Titans can find a way to stop that running game, and if they can get off the field, which they've been doing pretty well for the most part on defense. They haven't had the third down struggles like they did last year.
Yeah.
Time of possession in general, they've been doing a pretty good job. So if they can manage to shut down or contain the San Francisco running game, 49ers passing